Part 1.
1. You are going to hear a conversation between an agent and a client. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen to the tape and answer the questions.
Hello?
Hi, good morning. Are you open yet?
Yes, we are. Come in. Would you like to rent an apartment in the city?
Well, kind of. I'd rather rent one near the harbor if possible.
Oh, okay. Do you like the water?
Yes, I do, but I actually repair sailboats for a living, so I'd like to be close to work.
That's understandable. We all want to live close to work. Well, I think I have something near there. How many rooms would you like?
Just one. I'm alone. But I would like to have an extra room for my dog.
So you'd like 2 rooms and an apartment that accepts animals. Here's one. It's 1 block up from the harbor and renting for $445. How's that?
That's perfect. Just what I was hoping to pay. What floor is it on?
Floor? Oh, it's on the 12th floor.
That's too high. I'd like to be on the 1st or 2nd floor so that I don't have to use the elevator. My dog, he's scared of them.
Oh, well then, that's a little more complicated. Let me make a few calls. Okay, I think I found a couple more for you. Here's one that might suit your needs.
How much?
$395 a month.
That's cheap.
But it's only a 1-bedroom, a large one, but it's still just 1 room.
Oh, well, regardless of whether the room is small, I still need a separate room for my dog. What else do you have?
Then I have a 2-bedroom for $565 on the 2nd floor that is a little further away from the harbor.
How far?
About a half mile, and they accept pets.
That's a little more than I had planned on paying, but I guess I could look at it. What's the address?
224 Williams Avenue, Harbor Square.
224 Williams Avenue. Got it.
Now look at questions 7 to 10. As the talk continues, answer questions 7 to 10.
What else is included?
Let's see, it has a washer and dryer, refrigerator and stove, a bed, dressers and shelves, and access to a swimming pool, game room, and gym.
Ooh, I'll definitely take a look.
Hi, how did you like it?
It's great. I love the amenities, but the bed and furniture are awfully dirty. Can they replace those before I move in?
Sure, that shouldn't be a problem. Anything else?
Yeah, I didn't see anywhere to park my car. Is there a parking lot in the basement?
Yes, there is. Would you like to rent a space?
No, I'd like that to be included in the rent.
Oh, well, I'll see what I can do, but I can't guarantee that. Do you want to take it anyhow?
If those 2 issues were solved, I would love to take it.
That is the end of Part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear a lecture on bird migration.
First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 17. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 17.
My lecture this evening will focus on the migration of birds. That is, how birds fly in big groups from different parts of the world at certain times of the year. In the first part of the lecture, I'll talk about the reasons why birds migrate, when they migrate, and which parts of the world they migrate from and to. To start with, why do birds migrate? Well, there are two main reasons. One, they migrate to look for food, and two, they travel to parts of the world that are more suitable for breeding. In fact, these reasons are closely linked. As you can imagine, when birds are breeding, they need extra food to feed their young. And in the spring, in the cooler climates of Europe, there is a lot of food for birds, especially insects. So, generally, during the spring, birds fly up from the tropics, which are hot, to cooler climates in the north. They stay there for a few months to bring up their young. And then, when the weather in the north gets cold in the winter, they fly back to warmer climates in the south. Now I'd like to talk a bit about how global warming has affected bird migration. One of the effects of global warming has been to make the spring come earlier in the northern regions of the world. When spring comes early, the plants and insects that birds need to bring up their young are also available earlier. Research has shown that quite a lot of birds have started to migrate earlier because of higher temperatures. But unfortunately for some species, this hasn't been early enough. What I'm saying is that birds that are travelling a long way for breeding may arrive too late to find enough food to feed their young, and their population drops drastically. Scientists are currently researching more about this.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 18 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 18 to 20.
Now, I thought I'd finish by just briefly describing a few different patterns of migration. Migration varies with the type of bird and the area they come from. For example, one kind of migration is partial migration. This means that some birds in a particular species will migrate and others won't. It usually depends on how the weather affects food supplies, and very often happens in the tropics. In another migratory pattern, a bird called an Arctic tern migrates the whole length of the globe, from the North Pole to the south. The Arctic tern travels between 12 and 15,000 kilometres each way when it migrates in a complete circle around the world. It's quite amazing. Right, and lastly, I'd like to mention a pattern which isn't nearly as spectacular, but is very interesting. And this is the way many birds migrate across North America. In this pattern, the birds fly northwards in the west of the country and then back south again in the east. So, if you imagine it, they're actually migrating in a circular pattern, like the hands of a clock, not in a straight line, as we might think.
That is the end of Part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 3. Part 3.
You'll hear a conversation between the tutor and two students about the presentation.
First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I think we can start straight away by getting Rose and Mike to do their presentation. Would you like to start, Rose?
Yes, well, we've done a survey on local entertainment. Basically, we try to find out how students feel about the entertainment in the town and how much they use it.
Yes, so we've called our project Out and About. Yes, that's a good title, Out and About.
We wanted to find out how well students use the entertainment facilities in town, whether they go to see the latest plays, films, that kind of thing.
Now we have our own facilities on campus, of course.
Yes, we deliberately omitted those as we really wanted to examine outside entertainment in the town.
Actually, there were a lot of areas to choose from, but in the end we limited ourselves to looking at 3 general categories: cinema, theatre and music. Right.
Okay, well, first of all, cinema. In the town there are 3 main places where you can see films. There's the new multi-screen complex cinema, the old park cinema, and the late-night Odeon.
So if you look at this chart, in terms of audience size, the multi-screen complex accounts for 75% of all cinema seats. The park cinema accounts for 20% of seats, and the late-night Odeon has just 5% of seats.
As you probably know, the complex and the park show all the latest films, while the late-night Odeon cinema tends to show cult films. So when we interviewed the students, we thought the complex would be the most popular choice, but surprisingly it was the late-night Odeon.
Yeah, and most students said that if they wanted to see a new film, they waited for it to show at the old park, because the complex is more expensive and further out of town, so you have to pay more to get there as well. Yes, and that adds to the cost, of course, and detracts the popularity, evidently.
Well, next we looked at theatres. The results here were interesting because, as you know, there's a theatre on campus which is popular, but there's also the Stage Theatre in town, which is very old and architecturally beautiful, and there's the large modern theatre, the Ashtop, has recently been built.
So you just looked at the 2 theatres in town?
Yes. What was interesting is that there are periods during the year when students seem to go to the theatre and periods when they go to the cinema, and we really think that's to do with budget. If you look at this graph, you can see that there's a peak around November and December when they go to the theatre more, and then a period in April and May when neither is particularly popular, and the theatre viewing seems to fall off virtually, while the cinema becomes quite popular in June and July.
I think you're probably right about your conclusion.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Well, lastly we looked at music, and this time we were really investigating the sort of small music clubs that offer things like folk or specialise in local bands. So not musicals as such. That's right.
We looked at 3 small music venues and we examined the quality of the entertainment and venue and gave a ranking for these. A cross, meaning that the quality was poor, a tick, meaning it was okay, and 2 ticks for excellent. First of all, the Blues Club, which obviously specializes in blues music. This was a pretty small place and the seating was minimal, so we didn't give that a very good rating.
No, we don't recommend that one really.
Then the Sunrise, which plays a lot of South American music, was a big place, very lively, good performers, so 2 ticks for that one. The Pier Hotel is a folk venue, a good place for local and up-and-coming folk artists to play. Not the best of venues, as it's in a basement and a bit dark, but the quality of the entertainment was reasonable, and the lighting was very warm, so we felt it deserved an average rating. Finally, there's the Bald Rock Cafe, which features big rock bands and is pretty popular with students, and we enjoyed ourselves there as well, so total marks for that one.
And then did you get any information from the students as to which of the clubs they preferred?
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear a local radio program giving information about jobs that are available in the area.
First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Mandy. Good morning, Mandy. What's up in the employment world this morning?
Well, Simon, this morning I have 5 jobs that have come in, and the first is for a dental assistant. That's located in Tunbridge, and it's 2.5 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturday mornings. You've got to be at least 25, and the salary is £2,080 per annum, and you've got to be experienced. The second opening is for a florist, and this is according to experience as to wage, and the age is open. The job is in Tunbridge Wells, and the hours are from 9 to 6 Monday to Saturday, and because you're working Saturday, you get a day off in the week. Now, as that's a florist, you must be very experienced in all aspects of floristry and capable of working to a very high standard. Previous managerial experience is an advantage, as this job has actually got nice prospects, because there's a possibility of management for the right applicant.
So there's one for someone who's going places. What's next, Mandy?
Next job then, Simon, is an evening job, and it's for a cleaner. The wage is £25 per week and the age is 30 plus. Hours for this, as it's an evening job, 6 to 8:30 Monday to Friday. So that's a nice job for someone who wants to do something in the evening, Simon. They must be fully experienced as an office cleaner, hoovering, dusting and polishing, etc.
And where's that one based?
Oh yes, that one's in Tunbridge. The fourth job we've got lined up is for general catering assistant, based in Paddock Wood. The wage is £48.40 plus full board, so that's full board and it's £48.40. The age is 18 plus, and there are alternate shifts on this job. It's 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 11:30 to 7:30 p.m. and the job consists of cleaning, washing up the kitchen, as well as serving in the dining room and all sorts of domestic duties. Experience is not necessary. So, for someone who's 18 plus, that's a nice little job there. And here's the punchline: 10 weeks holiday per annum.
Oh ho, I might put in for that myself.
I can just see you up to your elbows in the washing up, Simon. Last vacancy is for an office job. That's secretary and personal assistant based in Tunbridge. The wage is £4,298 per annum. Now, there's a little bit of detail I must give here. It's part-time to start with, 3 days a week for 3 months. So for the part-time, it's 3/5 of £4,298. And then after 3 months, it goes to a full-time job, 9 to 5. That's for someone 21 plus. And the job consists of work as a secretary cum personal assistant to social workers. You need fairly good shorthand and good typing speeds required. And it's also related to clerical work, answering the phone and reception, etc. And because it's working for social workers, you need a responsible attitude and common sense. So, if you're interested in any of these jobs, get in touch with Tunbridge Job Centre on Tunbridge 55499 and ask for extension 30. And that's it, Simon.
Thank you very much indeed, Mandy. By the way, that's your day's work done. You can just sit back now and do absolutely nothing.
Wouldn't that be nice, Simon? Haha, if only I could.
That is the end of section 3.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.